Domine benedicere.
Benedictione perpetua, benedica nos pater et.
A number of the people that were organizing this Day of Reparation. As we understand it, the Capellina was set aside for 1 hour for the pilgrims with the Society of Pius X. It was supposed to be ours exclusively for that hour. When we got there, shortly thereafter, you may have seen that there were some nuns come in and sit down. One of the directors of the shrine, I don't know his name, he suggested to this nun that she go up to the microphone. So she went up to the microphone and she was waiting for everybody to be quiet. Well, you were in the middle of your rosary, you weren't going to be quiet. And so she was a little perturbed, did not know what to do, so she turned around, she acted like she was going to sit down, and this gentleman, I happened to be standing right up there taking some videos, said, go on, and he motioned another nun to go up there with us. They were, I assume, Novus Ordo nuns. By the habit, there certainly weren't people that were traveling with our group. So the two of them went up while you were reciting the rosary, and they attempted to sing. You kind of drowned out your loud voices. So there was a bit of a standoff there. And one brother, I don't know his name, Father, do you know his name? He decided that he was going to shut off their microphone. As you see, he attempted to vault over the retaining wall there, and he was physically restrained. It was a little dicey there for a while. What many people didn't see happened on the side within maybe 5 minutes. Another one of our gentlemen that I'm sure was traveling with our group, he came up and he started to take pictures where these guards had gone into the back. A priest came out. I'm sure he was connected with the sanctuary. He had on kind of a gray shirt and pants with a Roman collar. And they watched this man taking pictures. And before long, they came up, and he was standing like this, taking pictures. He had this camera strap around his neck, and they attempted to yank the camera away from him. They almost pulled him by the neck over across, and he is hanging on to his camera for dear life, and they wanted to get the camera away from him. Well, just then, another one of our people run up on the side, and they started to take photos of this whole man. After that, you would thought they were struck by lightning. They both went... They did not want to be caught on film doing that. At any rate, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a man who, in my opinion, is probably, certainly in the English-speaking world, the most versed person on the apparitions of Fatima. He's made it his life work. He was ordained in 1976 in Avellino, Italy. It's my pleasure to introduce Father Nicholas Gruner.
Well, today is my anniversary of my ordination, the 22nd of August. 29 years ago. And for 28 years I've been promoting the message of Fatima full time. And so there's really so much to say and so little time to say it, and I'll try and cram as much as I can into it. I passed out to you a little leaflet or pamphlet called The Chronology of a Cover-Up. There's a number of themes that we can talk about in Fatima. And by the way, one of my works is to, I might say, is point out to you that part of the message and part of the story of Fatima is really not understood. Many things are not understood, but one of them is that on May 13th, there were only 3 people who saw Our Lady, just Jacinta, Lucy, and Francesco. But on June 13th, there were 50 people who did not see Our Lady, but who saw the children. Now, if you think about it for a moment, all of you are here today because of those 50 people. Because those 50 people told their friends and neighbors, and in July 13th, there were 5,000 people. And on August 13th, there were 15,000 people. And September 13th, there were 30,000. and in October there were 70,000. Now, they didn't have not that there wasn't radio or newspapers, but they did not have those means, because, in fact, Fatima was opposed from the very beginning. Fatima was opposed by Lucy's mother, among others, and certainly by the mayor of Urem, who put them in jail and threatened them with death. It was 88 years ago, plus 3 days, and on the 15th of August they were released, and the 19th Our Lady appeared out of turn, so to speak, because of what that evil man had done. Our Lady also said because of what he had done, the miracle that God promised would not be as great as originally planned. And so we have to understand something about Fatima, is that it has been opposed from the very beginning. It's been opposed by the Masons. Certainly he was a Mason, the tinsmith, and not only by the Masons, but also by the church. And that is the human prudence. I understand certainly the members of the hierarchy having been persecuted and having been many churches closed and so forth, and many laws against the church since 1910, that the hierarchy did not want to have any confrontation. And so the priests, many of them, discouraged people from coming to Fatima. So they did not have newspapers, they did not have the clergy, they only had themselves. And yet it was those 50 people, despite all the opposition, that were able to tell their friends, and 5,000 people came in July, up to 70,000 coming in October. And even then, they called the army out to stop the people from coming. And still, it was the lay people who told the message of Fatima and who told the story of Fatima to their friends and neighbors. And that seems to be the way it is even for us today. That is, the cover-up and the opposition is much more subtle today than it was in 1917. But it's just as real and perhaps more fierce than ever. And so it's important for you to realize that there has been an opposition to Fatima, and that opposition continues. And the leading place where that opposition comes from is the Vatican. It's not the only place, mind you. It's also here from the rector of the shrine, as you can see demonstrated for yourself today. And it's not just the rector, but it's the whole party. You see, the message of Fatima is in direct opposition to the plans of the prince of this world, and Our Lady promises her victory when her message is implemented. And she also tells us that if we don't implement her message, that entire nations will be annihilated and that we'll all be enslaved. We have really, for anyone being prudent, we have no choice but to know her message, live it, and propagate it with all the means we have. That's really what I've learned after 28 years of promoting this message full time. And this chronology, all it does for you is line up for you and give you facts and details over the last 88 years of the opposition and what has been done to succeed to overcome it. At the same time, we have not overcome sufficiently. And so the message, the opposition circles is centered on several very important points. The very important points of the message itself. And so I would like to give you a positive outline of what those important points are, and then perhaps end up with what the opposition has been, and finally, what you can do about it. And because I don't speak about it that much, I don't want to point out, I don't want to give you the impression that prayer and sacrifice is, of course, of primary importance. And Our Lady certainly emphasizes that. The Rosary, the 5 First Saturdays, and the sacrifice of our daily duty. I may not stress that as my talk develops, but it's not because it's not important. The whole message of Fatima, the central message of Fatima, is really found on July 13th. On July 13th, 1917, you have summarized there the whole message, although it's not all stated on July 13th.